introduce and welcome Biju to our larger crowd here. And for many of us, Biju is not a new person. He has already been associated with us as a member of the advisory board and had been significantly helping us to see some different perspective in the way that we manage and the way we do education. And he's also helping us to drive one of the very interesting and important project that EY and MJC are doing together. So so in that way, for some of us, he's not a stranger. But since we have a larger group of people here, so let me just take this opportunity to briefly introduce Biju to the big crowd. Okay, first of all, I'll take credit for knowing him. He and I are college mates long ago when I had more black hair and when Biju had more hair on his head. So we did engineering and he was my junior. And subsequently, Biju went on to do his post-graduation in XIMB. And then he took up a career in the field of advertising, and where he had a fantastic career. Then somewhere along the line, he thought that he needed to understand how the human beings take the decision. Is the conventional knowledge of decision making is the right way of doing? So he decided to go a little deep into the brain and to understand how human beings take the decisions whenever they are forced to make choices, or whenever they are faced with some emergencies, or whenever they just live their normal life. So he had done a lot of specialization in the area of behavioral economics and neurolingual programming, and he decided that that is a very interesting idea which should be used in social transformation. So and then he went about setting up his own firm called FinalMile, doing a lot of interesting advisory and consulting services from this point of view. And in the last 10 years or more, it has become a very successful venture. And now it has become a part of a very large analytics firm called Fractal, where he has got himself, he made himself a very interesting, the designation. He called himself the chief evangelist. It is about, I think he will explain more in detail what it means, but it means that he's a person who's working with this large organization, global organization, in, on evangelizing, sharing this idea of bringing the human element in all the work that they do, because the larger company specialized in data analytics, is one of the topmost data analytics companies in the world. And they decided that they need to marry the data analytics and understanding of human mind together to develop the right insight for policy making or decision making, as the case may be. So that is a very, very unique and interesting field, and he's considered to be an acknowledged expert in the world, working with Nobel laureates like Taylor, and very widely recognized in India and internationally. He writes a weekly column in the Mint. I don't know how many of you get the opportunity to read. It's sort of he addresses many interesting issues through this open ed column. I recommend that all of you should read it. Without me spending too much of time, let me ask Biju to share some of his thought. Biju, I'm going to share the slide set. Just tell me when I should change. Just give me a second.
Hi everyone. I think it's a great pleasure talking to all of you, and as Koshi mentioned, the very association that I have with all of you itself is really encouraging and energizing, and so it's a I consider this to be an honor to talk to all of you about what I believe, or what is the little story that I have about as to why I believe I can fly. So let me begin with this story that we all know. The hare on the tortoise, and I think that's a story that we all heard in our school, maybe in our first standard or in our second standard. And I remember, even when I used to study this, and teachers used to tell me, I think I was always very skeptical about come on, how can it be? How can, even if the hare was sleeping for 98% of the time, how can the tortoise actually beat the hare? It can't really be true. And so I think those days I used to sort of dismiss this as a story. Okay, it's a story. But today, almost 55 years of life being spent on this earth, looking back, and I realized, hey, that's exactly what my life is all about. That was what my life was all about. Because if I really look at what I was, say, in my primary school, a small little school, a Malayalam medium school in a village in Kerala, and I was an average student. Then my parents sent me to an English medium school about 20 kilometers away in my 5th standard, and I had really traveled a lot. And I'd walk for about 2 kilometers to the bus stop, and then take a bus that takes you another 20 kilometers, and then walk another half a kilometer, reach the school, and come back. No wonder, I'm sure now I can look back and say it is so tiring. Why I did very, very badly in school, and I was really at the bottom of the class in my 5th, 6th, and 7th. Clearly, I was at the bottom of it. I think 8th, 9th, and 10th, I went to the Don Bosco school run by the Salesian Fathers. And I think that was a change. But slowly, still, I was never a school topper, never a class topper. I was always average, below average student. Then I think when I look at my pre-degree, as we call the +2, okay, average. But due to some spurt of hard work, I got into the College of Engineering, Trivandrum, where I met Koshi and I met Matthew. When I was in my first year, they were in the 4th year, the final year. Okay, and then in the engineering college too, I was just an average, below average student. When I look my MBA, again, I was just an average student. I think when I started working is where possibly slowly, I think I sort of started just becoming a bit more better and better as compared to what my companions were. Today, yes, I'm very happy with what I have done in life. Today, in a lot of things, when I speak, I know I'm one of the few in the world who speaks that language. But as I said, yes, when I now look back as to where are my school toppers, where are my +2 toppers, where are my engineering college toppers, where are my MBA toppers, I don't really see them, or I don't really hear about them. I think that is exactly the first thing I would like to tell all the youngsters listening to what I'm speaking. That at this point of time, we might think because I'm the last in the class, I'm far below average, we might think, oh, I've lost the race, I'm not good. And my advice is no. Life, success and failures are not decided when you're in your school, not decided when you're in your college, not decided when you start the initial years of work. It's much later. Somewhere in your 40s and 50s is where you look back and say, have I really been successful in life, or have I been a failure? So all that you need to do is, I think wherever you are at this point of time, like the tortoise, I think just continue to move forward. As long as you're moving forward, as long as I think we have taken few steps more in the right direction than what we have taken till yesterday, I think we should be happy. Yes, I think I'm in my race, and I think I'm moving. I'm moving in the right way. I think that to me was one of the first big lessons that I learned, that and which I will continue to speak. How a very average, below average person like me could actually go on to be one of the best in the world is because of this. Now, Koshi, the next slide. But I think it is important that when for you, as you're taking those little steps in that, as I said, like a tortoise, take that small steps and move forward. I did say we should have a direction. And that direction comes from your dreams. I think one thing I can look back and say, yes, whenever, whichever age I was in, I always had a little dream. When I was in my, I think, ninth standard, 10th standard is where maybe I really started. I thought, oh, I should get a first class in my 10th standard. And those days, getting a first class, which is about 360 marks out of 600, was a fairly, very important thing. It was fairly rare. And I think I got about 400 marks, which is not too bad. It was actually very okay by those particular standards. When I was in my +2, I said, I think I should get into the Trivandrum Engineering College. And my cousin sister, she had already made it to the college, and she had told me a lot about how good that college is and how cool it is. I said, oh, I think I should get into engineering, and that was my dream. And in the engineering college, thanks to interactions with Koshi and his friends Sunil Samuel Vargas and Roni and Matthew and all that, I heard about something called MBA, because I'm talking about the early 80s. No one really was talking about MBAs those days. But thanks to the interactions I had, somehow I always had a very close relationship with my final year batch of Koshi and others. And I think that's when I heard of MBA. Oh, I think I should get into a MBA institute. When I was once I finished my MBA, I said, oh, I want to get into advertising. So I think at each stage, I think one of the, this that really drove me is this Walt Disney statement: if you can dream it, you can do it. So much so I still remember, which I do even today, that whichever book that I have, the first page, I used to write this. Even when I was in school and in my +2 and in engineering, if you can dream it, you can do it. Whenever I got a new pen, the first thing I wrote with that particular pen was the statement: if you can dream it, you can do it. And later, when I started working with the Reliance, both Mukesh Ambani and Anil Ambani and a lot of those particular projects, I used to see this statement every time, because Dhirubhai Ambani, who built such a big, a conglomerate, a big company like Reliance, believed in it. So you go to the Reliance headquarters in Bombay, and everywhere you will find this: if you can dream it, you can actually do it. So I think the second big lesson that I've learned from my life is what I am today is actually because I dreamt. I dreamt a lot. I had a lot of, every time wherever I was, I always had a dream that I was looking for. And that's an advice I would actually give to all the youngsters today. I think we should write down that dream on a sheet of paper. And I think you should keep that little sheet of paper maybe in your wallet, or in your, I don't know, in your personal book or whatever. And I think you should look at it every day. It could be the amount of marks that you want to get in the next exam. It's the type of job that you want to do it. And there's nothing wrong for that matter. I would actually advise that every day for about 10 minutes, I think we should just daydream as to what I will be, and what sort of a car or what will I be driving, say maybe 20 years later. I think it's because dreams are power. Dreams have the ability to make you go in the right direction. Whenever I've seen some person who's, oh, I'm not really know this, I think the first thing I've realized is when I ask them, okay, friend, kiddo, tell me, what is it? And I realize they don't have a dream. No, I think the first, the second big advice I would give it is have a dream and write down that dream on a sheet of paper. And that is what will keep you moving forward. Next slide, Koshi. Yeah, this is something I learned in life. Yes, you will have big dreams, but there will always be people around you who will say, no way, what's the point in having all these dreams? No way you're going to achieve it. And they're going to now give you very rational reasons for, that. And there'll be two rational reasons. One is, never in the history anyone has done this. and no way you can ever do it. And, what you're trying to talk about are all things that never happened. I don't think you can really ever do it. So as Koshi mentioned, when I was trying to, change the advertising industry and the way, such a big experts all around the world was looking at human behavior in a certain way, and then me going and trying to tell them that, no, that's not the right way. There could be a different way of looking at human behavior. There are a lot of people, and very, very knowledgeable people, very, very significant people who told me, Biju, come on, what are you trying to do? Who are you? You are an average student right through in life. Who are you to change the world? There have been much bigger experts in human behavior. They haven't looked at it in this particular way, but what are you trying to do about it? So there will be people who will actually hold you back. As I said, when I was dreaming of getting into Trivandrum Engineering College, there were a lot of my relatives who said, come on, what are you trying to talk about? You are not going to make it. And the second thing that can sort of hold you back is your past. A lot of people will point at your past and tell you that, look at what you've done. This is all that you've achieved in life. You think with all this you can move forward? That's exactly what happened to me. And I still remember when I went into my, for my pre-degree, as we call the 11th admission to this college called St. Berkman's College, SB College in Chakanasheri. Because I had about 408 marks, my mother told me, no, take first group, which is physics, chemistry, and maths. So with my mother, I went for the interview, and it's a very fast thing, it gets over. And so obviously the principal, Father Matthew Pulkeparambil, asked me, Biju, what do you want to do? I said, Father, I want first group. Okay, take it and go. And he said, why? And I said, Father, I want to become an engineer. And he said, okay, what marks? Okay, it's 408 marks. Okay, and I'll go. When I was about to leave, the vice principal stopped me and said, hey, Biju, stop. So I stopped. And so the principal asked the vice principal, Father, why do you ask him to stop? Father, did you see his marks in mathematics? And so the principal asked the vice principal, so how many marks he's got in mathematics? And the vice principal said, even before, so principal asked me, Biju, how many marks did you get in mathematics in your 10th standard? I very sheepishly said, Father, I got 36 marks. Yes, I had only 36 marks in mathematics in my 10th standard. It's because in history, geography, English, and other things, I had a fairly very good marks. I think overall my total was not too bad. Now, and then I think the vice principal asked me a question. Biju, with 36 marks in mathematics, will you go and make it to an engineering college? I think, yes. I don't think ever in the history of Kerala, someone who got 36 marks, just passed, 35 was the pass marks in mathematics, with one extra mark, has ever made it to the best engineering college in Kerala. And this can always look back and say, yes. But I think one big advice I want to tell you is, yes, there'll be a lot of things that can hold you back. It could be your past, the family background that you come from. Your parents might be poor. You might have got very poor marks in the past. But the truth is, we can't do anything about it. Can't do anything about it. Even if I cry, or even if what I do, that 36 marks is not going to become 37 ever. None of us can rewrite our past. We have to take our past as it is. Next slide, please. But, Koshi, next slide. I think the past can, in my case, what it did was it created a lot of anger. And anger has always been part of my life. When the vice principal asked me, Biju, in a very condescending way, he asked me, do you think with this 36 marks, you will make it to engineering college? I don't know. Maybe I was a bit audacious or whatever. Maybe I was fairly stupid. I didn't know what it really entails to get into engineering college. I told him, yes, Father, I will make it. And when my relatives told me that you can't make it, it just turned into anger. And I told them, I will prove it to you that I'll make it. I will prove you all wrong. And I think this anger has been a part of my life. And even in my +2, I was angry with, say, the whole, Kerala has a lot of politics in campus. And even now, I would say one of the best speeches in my life was as a 16-year-old boy in St. Buckman's College. I gave a speech against politics in campus. Obviously, when I came to CET, there was Koshi, who by then already was the counselor of the previous year, and there were a lot of these people who were already had a movement against politics in campus, and I joined them, and I joined the anger that we all had it, and it was all about changing. This is the way the lot of politics. No, let's change it. Or when I joined the advertising industry, I was angry with the traditional way of looking at human behavior. And it's that anger that actually kept me alive to actually look for newer and newer things. So I think in your life, I think we should always look for something that you're uncomfortable with, something that you feel has to change. I think that anger, and from that anger comes the need, a want to change, a want to do, will always come in. So it's good to be angry. And I was angry, and even now I am always angry with my son, and that's what still continues to make me look at human behavior in a new way. The next slide, please. I know, if I were to ask all of you, this is a photograph of two cricket players, obviously when they were in school. And I'm sure you almost know who that person on the right side is. That is Sachin Tendulkar. But I don't know how many, especially the students, would remember who that person on the left side is. And, if no time to do a quiz because we lost some time, but that person, his name is Vinod Kambli. And, these two were together, went and scored 664 runs in a school match, and that became a world record for quite some time. I think even now, maybe it is still the world record for a partnership. And but the most interesting thing is, in this partnership, who scored more runs, Sachin or Vinod Kambli? Actually, Vinod Kambli scored far more runs than Sachin Tendulkar, which means at a school level, Vinod Kambli was a far better player than Sachin Tendulkar. Or even if you take, the Bombay team, the Ranchi team, or a Bombay University team, the first person before Sachin got into the Bombay University team, Vinod Kambli was selected to the Bombay University team. Even in Bombay, I think the Ranchi, Vinod Kambli was ahead. And Vinod Kambli, when he started his, his game with India, he played against West Indies. And in the first 4 innings, he scored 3 centuries. Whereas Sachin Tendulkar began on some 19 runs. That was the first score he had in test matches. So obviously, Vinod Kambli was a far superior player as compared to Vinod Kambli was a far superior player as compared to Sachin Tendulkar at the school level, at the university level, and even at the beginning level, even as he started playing for the country. But why did Vinod Kambli just got out? Got out of the team and we have forgotten him. Whereas Sachin went on to become one of the best players in the world. And I was speaking to Harsha Bogle. You would have heard his commentary. And Harsha was telling me some of the inside news about the cricket players. And he was telling me about Vinod Kambli. Now he said Vinod Kambli was a very smart guy, and he was so when the coach used to tell him, Vinod and all the players now go off to sleep. Okay, all the players will go off to sleep. More like Sachin will go to the room and will start sleeping. Now Vinod Kambli, what he was being a very naughty guy, after the coach and everyone has gone up, he'll get up, open the door without anyone seeing. He used to take his bike, go, and then in the night, go there to the club, have a good time with his friends. And around 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning, he used to come back to the hostel and then sleep, and just for 1-2 hours. And when coach say, no, get up everyone, that's the morning exercise. Sachin in the world will get up in the morning and do all the running around. And they'll say, no, sir, I've got a stomach ache. I'm not feeling well, sir. But because he was so talented, he used to still play the match and he used to still do it. But what was happening is he was being naughty. He was not putting enough hard work. So I think because he was so talented, even without hard work, I think he could still play at a very high levels, at school levels, at university levels, or even at the initial stage of his international career. But soon he's going to find people like McGrath and all the other players who are also really good. And that is where you suddenly realize, whereas on the other end, there was Sachin Tendulkar, who was not as talented as Vinod Kambli. But what he did was, along with his talent, he added a lot of hard work, which actually now made him obviously better and better and better. Now, this is a huge, big advice I want to give, especially to some of those of you who are really talented and who are, you say, oh, I don't study, I just, go and write an exam, I get very good marks, which means you're really talented. Good. But I can tell you, if you don't put enough hard work along with it, in school and in college, maybe you will do well. But as you go up in life, as the competition becomes more and more intense, talent alone will not take you far. You need to add a lot of hard work to that. Without hard work, there's no option. Next slide, please. Now, when I was, growing up, especially when, as I said, with 36 marks in mathematics and 10th standard, with the dream of making it to Trivandrum Engineering College, all that was great. And I remember getting up early in the morning to study, and I had 4 brothers, and they're all sleeping. And I used to say, well, let me also go and sleep. But, it was difficult for me to stay awake and really motivate myself. Although dreams are there, but, you need motivation. And that's when I came across this quote from H.W. Longfellow, which said, "The heights by great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, were toiling upward in the night." I cut this, this particular quote, and I stuck it in front of my study table. And every day, and I used to see my brothers and others sleeping, and I said, yeah, that means I knew that hard work is the only option. And I still remember much later when I was preparing for my MBA entrance after the final year of my engineering, I was staying in one of the lodges in Trivandrum, and I still remember, I think 87 or 88, the World Cup was on. And I think India-Australia match or whatever was happening there. And I could hear people all shouting and, oh, wow, and all that. So I also about to get up and then start moving. Then I asked myself only one question. Biju, what do you want to do? You want to go and now watch that India-Australia match on the television and then completely spoil your preparation for your MBA entrance? Or do you actually want to, do well, get into MBA, get a good job, and watch the cricket match in live? What do you want to do? Then I thought to myself, no, I think I'll watch the match live. So I locked my door, came back, and I continued my preparation. And lo and behold, I think almost 10 years later, when I was working in this ad agency called Lintas, I still remember the London World Cup was on, and I had the opportunity to go and watch the match. But by then I was not so enamored by cricket, so I didn't go. So I think that's a call all of us will have to take in life, which is enjoy the present. And it's in psychology, it's called delayed gratification, which means you have 2 options. One is you can enjoy the pleasures of the present and have a good time, watch television, play around there. But then the future is definitely not in control. Or instead, you can give up certain pleasures today because you have a dream and you decide and say, I'm going to give up all the existing pressures because I have a dream and I'm willing to work hard. And we have to delay our gratification. There's no way that we can enjoy, have a great time today, at the same time expect to do well, in future. So many times when I speak to the youth, I speak to a lot of them in my church, I tell them one thing, there are about 6 years of our life which is very, very important, which is the 10th standard, 11th, 12th, first year of our degree, second year of your degree, third year of degree. These are the 6 years of life that almost determines your life. Now we have the option of this 6 years, you do bindas, you don't study anything, and then we will be living for about 60 years after that. Then those 60 years are not really in control. But if this 6-7 years of your life, 9th standard on, you really start working hard, get good marks, do well in your education, then your chance of the next 60 years post that is fairly under control. And that's something I learned. If I had not studied well in my, more so in my 10th, 11th and 12th, I wouldn't have got into a good engineering college. If I had not got into a good engineering college, I wouldn't have met a lot of people who have guided me in the right way. If I had not got into a good MBA institute, I wouldn't have got into the good jobs that I really got in. So our education is very, very important. So for that, we have to really, really study hard. The next slide, please. I think even when after my MBA, the first job that I got was in a financial services firm, and actually that wasn't something that I was looking forward to, because I actually wanted to get into the world of communication and advertising. But and this job was in Calcutta, and but I still remember, the monsoon time. It was my job, and the company was. The office was behind the writers' building. It's called the Secretariat, the main of the government office in Calcutta. And in the monsoons, that road leading up to my office used to flood so much that even for my height, and some of you know I'm fairly close to 6 feet, the water used to be far above my knee. It's almost up my thigh level. But those days, what I used to do was I used to roll up my trousers, up this one. And I used to wade through this particular water and go to the office every day. Even though I was not too comfortable with that particular job, I think I gave my 100%. And I know, as I said again, I know I'm an average guy. And I know the only way I can't, suddenly make people, what we call wow people with my intelligence. I'm not a super intelligent guy who can come up with great things. But I knew one thing I can always bring to the table better than anyone else is my passion and my dedication. That is nothing less than 100%. It'll always be more than 100% is what I do. So I compensated for my lack of intelligence and lack of, all this with my passion. And even if I was in like engineering, as I said, as soon as I entered the engineering college, I knew I'm not meant to be an engineer. No wonder I had only 36 marks in mathematics. I was more meant to, not for the rigors of being an engineer, I was actually meant to be a softer things like being in the human behavior. That really happened in my first year of engineering itself. But that didn't say, oh, let me get out of my engineering college. No, I said, being in the engineering college in Trivandrum, let me do what I can. And Koshi would remember, and I used to take part in debates a lot. The Uni-Y, where I used to improve my speaking skills. I used to play basketball, and although not a great player, I still used to be part of the college team. So I think it's important that even though you might not like something, we should still continue to give 100%. And that I gave. And I think, and so in all of them, whether it's my first job or whether it's the engineering college, I think it still gave me back a lot of things because I learned a lot of things from there. The next slide, please. I think this was a video which I think would play. This is actually a video that I want to play about this athlete in the Barcelona Olympics, where he was running his 400 meters. And, almost about 150 meters into the race, I think he developed a cramp. And obviously, he can't run further. And obviously, the authorities and all saying, no, it's okay. Now you can stop the race because it's over. But what he does is he actually starts on his one leg and continues to move forward. And suddenly you'll see some man, from the spectators coming onto the track, and you can see the securities trying to stop him. And but this man obviously has explained what it is, and this man comes and gives this guy the shoulder and say, okay, and then you continue. Actually, that was his father, and almost up to the final, the finishing line, he still hops on one leg, and just before reaching the final line, his father just let him go, and he sort of finishes the finishing line. Very, very powerful video. But to me, it tells a lot about one thing in life, is that how much ever you're prepared, how much ever you have the dreams, how much ever dreams you have, how much ever hard work you really put in, how much ever passion you put into what you do, there is something that will happen in life which will be failures. There will be failures in your life. And how you deal with those failures actually is one of the biggest determinants in life. And now when I look back as to why I continue to be fairly successful, is because there were people who were with me who in the first phase of failure, they stopped. Oh, they gave up. But I still continue. I think like this athlete that you would have seen, my attitude is when I fail, this one is, even if it's on one leg, I will finish the race. And that is an attitude that I always had. And I know today when I look back at almost 30 years of my working career, the number of days I would have taken leave and saying, oh, I'm not feeling well, so let me not go into office. Maybe I can count it on my two hands. I don't think I've taken in the last 30 years more than 10 days of leave because I was sick. Because I just hate to say I'm sick. Even if I'm feeling not well, I'll still go to office. I think we need to deal with failures or whatever. And each of us will have different type of failures in life, difficulties in life. But how you deal with failure and not give up when failures happen is one of the most important things that is going to keep us moving forward in life. The last slide. So all that I want to tell you, as I said, I know I'm an average guy. I'm not a super intelligent guy. I don't manage to wow people in an office because of some very unique insights I managed to bring at that point of time, which I thought of. No. I think all that I can tell you is that if an average guy like me can go on to do well, fairly, very well, and maybe I'm very happy, maybe really do well in life and be world-class in what I do. And to all my youngsters and anyone, all of you who listen, I can only say that definitely I know you're all more intelligent than I am at your age. Definitely all of you can go on to become successful in life. So that's a little advice I want to give. Yes, each of you can actually fly. As I said, yes, take one step like a tortoise forward every time. Let there be a dream that actually takes you forward in the right direction. But let not any people or let not your past actually prevent you from, pull you back, from your dreams. But maybe you need an anchor, or maybe you need some motivation. Take anger from the mistakes of the past and use that, and then move forward in life across there. But I think we need to put hard work. Talent alone is not enough. We need to put a lot of hard work across there. And even if things that are not comfortable come your way, don't give up. Don't give only don't do half-hearted things, anything in life. Anything you do in life, put your heart and soul into that. And every time, I think you should look to see what is that you can improve upon. Now, I'm sure after this presentation, I will be looking back and trying to ask, hey, what is that I could have done which was better, that I could have made this presentation a bit more better than what it is. Because failures, and we all will make failures. But I think we need to get up. We need to learn from failures and still continue to move forward. Wish you guys all the best. Thank you.
Biju, it was excellent listening to you, because your story is almost similar to many of us here. Me, Koshi, and all. So I've asked people to put, if you have any questions, kindly post it in the chat.
Okay, I'm not able to see the chat.
No, nobody has anything till now. Or
Okay, then it's fine.
unmute and ask also, because I can see Guru.
I will.
Hi, Biju. Hi, Matthew. Biju, I have a question. I think this is this has been a wonderful sharing of experiences, Biju, and I think somewhere I'm glad that all our dots are connecting. Right? I couldn't attend Marcus's presentation in live, but I watched it on YouTube. Marcus, that's a it's a moving story of yours, Marcus. I wanted to congratulate you for sharing all of those experiences with us. So Biju, coming to the question that I have, which is slightly outside the presentation that you made. So I read your Mint columns regularly, and particularly I read the one which was the recent one on NEP, the National Education Policy, that you wrote. So you're absolutely, and I share with the thoughts that you've had. And I think even on this presentation, all of us are very fond of our early stages of life, right? And that's, I think, we almost, without a fail, remember all the sequence of events. You talked about the lack of focus on building character in the current education policy. So given that we have a lot of students and also faculty, are there specific thoughts that you've had in terms of what, even if it's not part of the policy, that what the faculty and the teaching community could do in terms of inculcating the character building attitudes at the early stages of life in schools?
Yes, I think it will be a very long session. I think we can have a complete session of what all can we do. One, as you really read, I was a bit surprised, to be honest, when I read through the national, the education policy, and I suddenly found that the word character and values are, not really there. Although the document is an excellent document on how to create learning and, how to go about learning and change that particular learning. But when it came to character formation, I think there were some few 1-2 mentions out there. And even I think something like the NCC which actually was spoken about, like, okay, that will help you to get jobs in the defense services. But you and I know that if I'm part of the NCC, and some of you might be, where there is a rigor, there is a discipline. What that taught you was not that you can get a job in the armed forces, but there was that rigor is what really that taught you. Or there was NSS, where I think the college or the school, the college took care of a nearby village, and whatever, assume we had to build a road out there. The whole college students, the NSS volunteers went there and built a road. But there we saw society, we saw the problems in the society, and we said we need help to help them to change things around there. So these are all things that have to be inculcated in the students. Or for example, simple things like integrity and honesty. That I will not cheat in the exam. Even if I fail in the exam, no. If I don't know the answer, I would actually it's fine, and but I will not just do it. So I think that's where I think Salesians or Don Bosco, as a Catholic set of people, they run a lot of schools in India, even across the world. I think their system is something. When I was I was part of a Don Bosco school, but I didn't know that they were so they had such a brilliantly articulated system of character building as part of the education around there, and I thought is brilliant. And I know in the next committee meeting that we have, I like to learn more about it and talk about how we can incorporate some of those. Like, I know in Don Bosco school, after being in a normal school where you used to get beaten up for all the mistakes in life, when I went to a Don Bosco school, now I look back, they never beat you. For that matter, there's no punishment in a Don Bosco school. No one is punished for a mistake. But people are told that you made a mistake and you need to change things around there. So the whole point, Guru, is that yes, a lot can be done. As you said, in that initial 10 years and 10, 12 years, that school days is what made you and me. And I heard you speak about, Father Kuriakos, and what all, how that changed and how he influenced me. So I also will have Father K.D. Joseph and Father Matthew and all that, who also molded our life. So I believe that the kids who are listening to us, and most of the teachers who are listening to us, I think my advice to all of them is that, all these kids are in your hand, and I think your role is to, change their life. And I think there is a tremendous opportunity. Now, how to put that into a system is something that we at the top level will have to really think through. And I think the Don Bosco system is actually a very good system that could be adopted in a school.
Thank you, Biju.
Biju, can you access the chat box? Marcus has put it.
I can just articulate Biju.
That'd be
It's
great.
easier, probably.
Please.
My question would be, how are the chances for women compared to men in India? How do you consider that? And I just saw another question, if you could a little bit, from somebody else, if you could a little bit talk what you achieved in the advertisement industry, that we better understand.
Marcus, you're asking about what I did in the advertising industry? Is that what you want to talk?
This is a question from somebody else I have spotted on the chat, and my question is, how are the possibilities or the chances for women compared to men in India? How do you consider that?
Okay, Marcus, I'll answer your question first, and then I'll come to what I did in advertising. I think, women, I know many times we say the women in India are not doing so well. But I think I've been looking at some interesting statistics, and that is from the Kerala government, to begin with. But I think that numbers is true for US, which is that 10th standard. I think if you look at the number of students who are in school, boys and girls are, for that matter, about 50.2% is boys and 49.8% is girls. But I think the very interesting is when it comes to degree level, I don't know how you looked at the number. Most of might be surprised, and I was really surprised when I looked at the number. I think 72% of the graduates today studying for graduation in Kerala are women. And when it comes to post-graduation, that moves up almost to 76%. And which means the boys, when it comes to graduation and post-graduation, the education levels of the boys in Kerala and overall, I think I'm finding that's a trend across the world, because I have another interesting book that I was reading in the US too. It's actually going down. Now, because in the church, we keep a close tab, because on marriage, who's marrying, whom. I'm also seeing the same pattern, where the educational qualifications and so the jobs the girls are getting today in a middle class homes and most these are all Malayali families that I'm dealing with, is actually far superior to the boys. And so a lot of girls, there are girls who tell me, uncle, here says I'm willing to marry a boy, but can you find a boy who can get me, who's got 10 rupees more salary than I have? So the point I'm saying is, yes, I know my team works on some of the issues in villages in UP and Bihar, where the status of the women is very, very, really poor. I'm not denying it. But what I'm seeing is, with education, I think, and Kerala is the best example of it, the women have actually already have overtaken the men. And one of the reasons why I see the violence against women have gone up in Kerala, mostly on social media, very verbal, is because the men are not able to deal with the fact that now they are inferior to the women. So I think the Kerala example is a very good, this one, that if you give education to the girls, as we are doing in MJC, we are actually going to allow all of them to really bloom and really become much better than even the men in this society.
Thank you.
And as far as, okay, now the next question on advertising. Yeah, about 18 years I worked in advertising. I began my career with this agency called HTA, which is now called JWT. Then I worked with an agency called Lintas. Then I worked with an agency called Mudra. Yes, I launched a lot of brands in this country. Some of the biggest marketing launches in this country, like Reliance Infocom, big Axe deodorant, managed big brands like Pepsodent. So I worked with a lot of companies like the Unilever and the Pepsis and a whole lot of things. I think I did fairly very well in the advertising industry, but I said I was always angry with what we were doing. So although I did that, I said, no, it's also time to get out of it. But I think I had a fairly good run, worked with a lot of brands, a lot of the leading ad agencies, and also with all the leading companies. And that's what I did in the advertising industry.
Biju, it would be nice if you can let us know what is your current role as Chief Evangelist, and also a little about behavioral economics, because I know you are perhaps one of the world's few people who are dealing with it.
Yeah, I think my role right now is, as I said, yeah, maybe before that I should mention, I think I started FinalMile because I said the traditional psychology theory is to understand human behavior. But I think somewhere in the 2000, late 90s, early 2000, I think there was, I realized that if you really want to understand human behavior, we should understand how the human brain functions. And it was so happened a science called, of neuroscience, called cognitive neuroscience, was just emerging. And I happened to be one of the few first in the world to go and grab some books or start, seeing that as an opportunity. And also the 2002 Nobel Prize was a big change in economics, because for the first time a behavioral economist got the Nobel Prize in 2002. And I also grabbed that particular knowledge and started using that. And so I think, by about 2002, I knew that by combining cognitive neuroscience and behavioral economics, I can actually create a new way of looking at human behavior. And that was really, really a unique thing. So much so, the man who won the Nobel Prize in 2017, Richard Thaler, when he heard me in 2008 and 9, he had invited me to Chicago booth to give a few lectures out there. He was very surprised that a firm in India was already applying these to solve problems, because even they were using it only at very lab, their papers there. But he was surprised that we are solving to reduce road accidents, to get people, improve maternal health and all other things. And so Thaler was very, very surprised. And then I've continued the relationship with Thaler. So this was truly unique. But I think what I'm doing now is that I realize now we can still even further improve upon it. And so at Fractal, what I'm trying to do is this behavior, a combination of cognitive neuroscience and behavioral economics, I call it behavior architecture. I realize that if I can combine it with the power of data and mostly artificial intelligence, I can even further understand human decision making even better. So at Fractal, what I'm trying to do is now create even a further new understanding of human behavior by combining the powers of behavioral sciences and artificial intelligence. And this is something which I'm trying to propagate to all our clients, and then use this new knowledge to solve our clients' problems and also problems in society. And that's what my new responsibility is. So just pushing the envelope further and further.
Thank you, Biju.
Yeah. Any other questions?
There's one more question from the principal of Arts College. She has asked Nasima, Dr. Nasima, what do you think is your greatest strength?
I think my greatest strength is I just like to, every day learn something new. Could be like a tortoise, but every day there'll be something that I'm learning new vis-a-vis the previous day. So there'll always be a book that I will have. So every day I try to learn something new. So I'm a lifelong learner. I think that is my greatest quality. And I think I know to the last day of my life, I will always be reading something new, and I'll get excited by new knowledge. And I think that is what my greatest strength is. Lifelong learner.
Thank you. Biju, I have a question for you. If you can recommend one book for us to start reading, what would it be?
A book called is purely because that's a book that changed my life and about human behavior. It's a book called Influence by Robert Cialdini, and it's suddenly said there is a very different way of looking at human behavior, and it also opens up. Suddenly you realize why the beggars are so successful, why the politicians are so successful. So it sort of unravels the normal day-to-day things, and then suddenly tells you that there is a big science behind it. And it also brings a lot of humility as a learner, that that means you don't take anything for granted. So for example, a lot of learnings that I have today is on just that one act of the ball being bowled and a batsman seeing that ball and how he's able to hit that ball. Now I realize it's a huge, complicated thing that happens in 0.45 seconds. So in trying to unravel human decision-making process, and now just unraveling just that 0.45 seconds of a decision-making process is helping us to solve a lot of things. So Influence is the book by Robert Cialdini, is the book that opened up my this one to say that human behavior is a very, very interesting world. And there is if you go behind each human behavior, there are a lot of interesting learnings that much deeper learnings are there. And that's a book that I would recommend because that's a book that changed my life.
Thank you. I'm thinking now that we should actually start a course of human behavior on the campus, possibly. Maybe with the B.Ed college, I don't know, but we need to do it, I think.
B.Ed, of course, I think you should. I think I definitely would strongly recommend.
That's where we start, the education, where they frame their formative. They're actually molding the minds. They're responsible for molding minds. So how do we create responsible faculty and teachers? I think the beginning of the whole thing, system of education, right? So maybe worth thinking in that direction. So I'm going to pick you. I'm going to kind of chase you, for that, I suppose. Yeah.
I completely agree. And instead of there is a small question from our children who are listening.
Yeah, please.
Can you suggest any kind of books at their level, students' level, which you can, if you can, or you can send it to us later.
Yeah, I'll think about it.
For that matter, if you can give us a list of movies you think and books, we can then kind of make sure it's there in the library and the girls get to see it and watch.
Yeah, definitely. I can give that. That's for sure.
If there is nothing else, anybody, any more questions?
Good.
Who Moved My Cheese? Yes, Guru. That's a lovely book too.
Yes. Oh yeah, that's
yes. Yeah. Guru has said who moved my cheese? Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks, Guru. So I think Liz, you can.
Yeah.
Thanks, and I would like to say one thing about Biju, which he seemed to have missed. He's just mentioned it. See, I remember in college, when we were in the final year when they came in, Biju was part of the basketball team. And that basketball team, because in engineering college, we don't win the inter-university competitions. Their team was one of the best. And then they went on to win the university championships and inter-university championships for the next 2-3 years. Even after we left, I used to follow that because I was a great fan of basketball. Biju, you missed out on that. That I think might have shaped probably behavior a little. It might have shaped also in that.
No, I learned a lot of things about life in the basketball court, no doubt.
Yeah. Okay. Liz, over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Matthew. So when you talked about basketball, Biju, that was the second thing I thought I heard in common that you and I have. The first one being that I too learned about an MBA from Koshi. When he first came to me, we were still dating and we decided to get married, of course, but he'd got his admissions for his to IIM Bangalore and he was elated, and 1 month before that, he was very stressed out. He'd taken time off to go and prepare for it. And I just couldn't understand what all this was about because, I didn't know too much about IIM Bangalore or the IIMs as such, So I didn't know what the big deal was, to take a month off, and, sit isolated and prepare for it. You had walked around carrying a word list in your pocket to learn about words. I really didn't know what was happening or what this was about. And when he got his admissions and he said, I got it, I was like, oh, okay. But that was about it. I mean, it was only through him that I got introduced into this world of, further studies and the challenges. And, he pushed me to do my MBA too later in life. Pushed in the sense, encouraged me. And I did my MBA much later after I was working, is when I decided he made me realize that I needed to actually understand the higher essence of business, and that, would come through an MBA, So I learned an MBA from him also. The second thing was, again, the challenges of, as you said, on the sports. I played basketball too, and I think valuable lessons I learned were on the field. How do you lose? How do you win? How do you share? How do you work as a team? All those important lessons came on the field of basketball. Well, I share one more thing with you, and that is, I too was a poor, I performed very badly in academics in school, very, very badly. I had no clue about mathematics. I didn't know why I was in school. I couldn't, to me, it was more, I studied in a very privileged school, in Lawrence School in Ooty. To me, life was about the eucalyptus trees, the wind, the beautiful breeze that was around you, the buildings, the architecture. I enjoyed the hills and the valleys. I could not understand my classroom at all. So academics came to me much later in life. So I bloomed later, as I said. So for late bloomers, there's always, as you said, you showed us, that your chance will always come in life. There is the ups and there is the downs as well. Thank you for sharing and opening out your life to us, and showing us that there is hope, and to continue to work hard. Yeah. Thank you very much, Biju.
Thank you.
Thanks, Guru, for being here. Thanks, Marcus, also for being here. Thank you very much.
Marcus.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
It was really inspiring and interesting. As Biju, thank you so much. And I hadn't the chance to Guru to say the same a little bit. So thanks for having this chain of presentations from all the sides. It's so good, and I think our girls and the participants can take a lot of motivation from it. It's worthwhile to engage, and as well it's worthwhile to properly behave and support the other ones around us. So that's then multiplying our success.
Thank you, Marcus.
Koshi, over to you. Koshi, over to you for last.
We have all talked quite a lot. We heard a wonderful speech, and on behalf of all of us, I would like to say once again thanks to Biju. And I'm sure that as he is, this is not just a one-time event, and that he has promised that he will keep being a part of the team, which is trying to make continuous changes. And it's a matter of pride for all of us at the Institute, that in the past few months we have really gone forward and make quantum leap for a college for an institution that comes from such challenging circumstances today. We feel proud that we have really taken up this opportunity to familiarize ourselves with tools and the new facilities that is there, and make use of that in our day-to-day in the whole process of providing education and sharing information among us. This talk is one such initiative, and in fact, I would rather say, with all the pain of COVID, it has been really a blessing for MJC in this aspect, because it has opened up fantastic opportunities for having extremely powerful medium being made available to all the students and teachers, and everybody getting comfortable with that, and having the opportunity to listen to people like you coming from different parts of the world and share their experiences. As just sharing with all of you, as we had been on a regular basis coming together. Even I get more time and opportunity to spend with the teachers and the staff there, and we are able to continuously discuss and bring about a lot of new innovations there. In fact, something I'm just closing saying that last day, I could see the vibrance that is continuously building up. So last week I just sent up a mail to my principals in the campus, saying that we should get an opportunity. We should try thinking about familiarizing our children with coding, because that's a new language for the future. They are much younger. They will start getting an idea of that. And we had concerned that many of the progressive institutions, some part of the world are doing that, but in a very, very limited fashion. And it's still considered to be a privileged person's facility and so on and so forth. So I just shared this idea, and I was so happy to see that this Monday when we had the review, all the 3 institutions had come prepared with their plan how they are going to introduce this during the year, and they had created a whole working plan. And the coming week we are going to take the next level of discussion on how to implement that. But I felt that when I saw the vibrancy of all the institutions in thinking of something new and jumping ahead with that and taking it forward in such short time, I felt that all these efforts and the dialogues that we're having with a lot of people like you are really motivating and giving them the passion to take it forward. Because I realized that I'm just sharing that once again, because earlier also we were trying to introduce many of these innovations gradually, and many of them I picked up. Of adoption or the comfort of adoption was relatively lesser, because it was all referred in the limited context of our life in the campus. But when this opportunity came up to see the larger context of the world, which is being shared by people like Guru, Marcus, and Biju, and Abhijit, and so on and so forth, then there has been a natural confidence and passion started building up. And I'm thankful to all of you for having done that. And I hope that you guys will continue to sort of work with us and energize this this initiative of going forward. Every day taking 2 steps forward. And I hope that we will have you guys with us in this journey. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all.